When I practice looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I love you, I'm able to accept myself a lot more naturally over and over and over and over. And it takes those moments where I fall, it minimizes those moments. And when I do fall, I'm able to get back up a lot sooner when I practice the art of self-love.
The more that we know, the more we don't know. I mean, and that's the way it is. And when you were bringing up the physicist that you were talking to, quantum physics proves that. Like, the bigger you go, the deeper you go in science, the more spiritual it gets. Because if you look, quantum physics is spirituality in my mind. I mean, it's like it's the things that are undefined. It's like you said, the multiverse, that there's, you know, all these different things going out there, which just brings more and more choice. And if you can get choice burnout, right? Because like they even say this in marketing, like now you go into the store and there's like 50 different toothpastes, or you can have so many different things. And then with that, you make no choice, right? And so to have this physicist, going back to that story, he goes and he sees that everything's infinite, right? Like unlimited choice, right? And then he's like, what do I want?
Yeah.
What do I want right now? And that's the question. And then if you can just center yourself on that and bringing us full circle into the present moment. So how do you, Lee, use all these tools that you've learned and all this focus to keep yourself in the present moment? Like, is there any like tips or things that you found that are useful?
Yeah. Self-love, because I also fall out of the moment many, many, many times over. And when I love myself, I'm able to look at those parts that do fall. And that enables me to remember to stay present. When I'm not loving myself, I have expectations out of myself. And then when I don't meet those expectations, I judge myself. And that becomes this vicious cycle of like feeling disconnected from who I know I actually am. And I am perfectly flawed. And when I can embrace those flaws, it enables me the space to just get back to presence, get back to presence, get back to presence, get back to presence. And I think one thing that holds a lot of people back is when we break, is when we fall. And the paradox about that is if anybody goes to the gym, like they'll understand that the only way to actually grow a muscle is to tear it apart. So those destructive moments typically are the moments that seem to pull me out of the present moment, but it also propels me back to the moment with a lot more wisdom. So when I practice looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I love you, I'm able to accept myself a lot more naturally over and over and over and over. And it takes those moments where I fall, it minimizes those moments. And when I do fall, I'm able to get back up a lot sooner when I practice the art of self-love.
That's beautiful, brother. It's giving yourself permission to be you, right? To love yourself the way that you are. And that's that unconditional love that we talk about in relationships, and definitely we want with ourselves. And this goes back to that feedback. Everything in life is feedback. None of us would be walking around if we didn't fall. Like, then everyone would be crawling around earth. Like, oh, you'd stand up once, fall down, and be like, oh, to hell with that. We'll just crawl. You know,
if we just started flying, we wouldn't appreciate the process of what it actually took to get there.
Right.
You know,
well, I've had that. Like, there's been other comedians that make fun of that when people are so pissed off that their flight is like 5 minutes late. Like, we're in the air right now, like flying 30,000 feet, and you're complaining that you're going to be 5 minutes late. You know, like, I mean, this is a freaking miracle, right?
Yeah. And recognizing it as a miracle, where somebody is recognizing it as a burden. I mean, they're both in the same situation. One is choosing to see it a different way, and they're also having two different experiences in the same situation. And once you can see that, it's like, okay, what would you like? Would you like this is happening anyways? Would you like to enjoy it, embrace it, and gain a lot along the way? Or you want to be upset?
Yeah. You know, I have to bring it to a personal moment. So on this last trip that I told you I was going, I brought my Native American flutes, and I've always traveled with them, and I bring them on. And then one of the women like took the flute and she was like bouncing in her hand, and I'm like, oh, can you please not do that? And maybe I shouldn't have said that to the TSA person, because then she was like, then she got mad. She like took the flute. I could see her face change because I told her, but I'm carrying these flutes on. I didn't throw them in my check bag because I don't want them to be. But then she comes back. She's like, "You can't take this in. It could be used as a weapon." And I was like, "Really? Like I've always brought this on, and and I feel myself getting emotional about the whole thing too." And then I was like, "Can I talk to a manager or something? Like I've always flown with these. I do not want to check these." So then she goes to get the manager, and I noticed that I'm definitely triggered, and I'm definitely getting emotional about this. And so I just took some deep breaths, and I said, "Hey, what do you want right now, Steve?" And I was like, "I want to take these flutes on the plane with me." And I said, "Okay, I'm just gonna," and this is in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna let all this go, because I could see where like maybe an argument was gonna emerge, and even that maybe she wanted that. She was having fun with this a little bit. I could feel. So I let all that go, and then the manager comes up, and he's like, "So you're the guy with the flutes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "I just wanted to come over and see him. I play flute as well, But and then he starts talking about the flutes and like who made my flutes, and he's like, "Oh, that looks like one of mine, but it wasn't the same flute maker." And we're talking, and then he looked at her and said, "I fly with my flutes. This is a musical instrument." And but then ultimately it comes back to that officer's choice. So it says, "But you were the officer checking, so it's your choice." And then and she let me go. And I have to add one more part to the story. I actually told her, I said, "Hey, I'm sorry if I was, telling you what to do with the thing, but these flutes were made in a certain key, and if I bang them around, then or they get fractured, then they're not going to play that musical note, so and so I did say that while we were waiting for the thing. So I kind of calmed the situation. And then she said, "Okay, you can go." So I went with the flute, and the thing that happened next is why I even told this story. But I mean, like I said, "Oh, I love traveling. I love going and seeing new places, being with new people, learning. But I don't like the part about getting on the plane and everything, like going through the checkpoints and all the security." And then my son says, "That's my favorite part, Dad. I mean, like, of all the parts of flying, it's the biggest part of the adventure. What are you gonna do? You sit on the plane. You're sitting on the plane the whole time. You're just sitting in a chair. How is that fun? Like going through security is the biggest part of the adventure, because you never know what's going to happen or what they're going to ask you, or check your bag." He's like, "That's the part that is." And I was like, "What the F right now?" Like, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like mind blowing. That's his favorite part, because the rest of the time he's bored sitting on the freaking plane.
Yeah.
Totally flip side of like our own reality. The part that I just want to relax on the plane and I don't want to go through checkpoints. And his is like the adventure of going through the checkpoints.
Oh my God, Master Domenico does it again. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, he totally, and because I was triggered by that whole thing and the flutes, and I was happy that I had my flutes, and I basically he totally, it was a moment of amazingness, and that I was able to see that, and he totally made me reflect in a different way. So
it's a great example of just like having an inevitable experience and looking at it differently, which creates a brand new experience within the same moment.
It's totally it. And that we can manifest what we want, because I totally believe that was manifestation, because I could have got in an argument with her, had to go back out security and not have my flutes with me, but I calmed myself down, because ultimately in that moment too, I was vibrating of like, "Oh crap, she's going to make me take my flute out." And if I kept that going in my head, then I would have been like manifesting that. But instead I breathed and said, "What do I want? I want to take the flutes on the plane with me." And so then I just held that space. And then sure enough, what coincidence? It's not a coincidence. The guy comes up and he's a flute player. And then we're like geeking out over my flutes, right?
That's so cool. And that's, that comes back down to resonance. Once you tune back into yourself, you meet that resonance on the outside. Like, that's literally how reality works. It's magnetically drawn. You met somebody who was going to assist you with that. Yeah.
And you know, the thing is, Lee, why probably this story I'm reflecting right now. Like, so we're talking about observing.
Yeah.
I'm observing, like, and you get better and better at this. Like Lee and I have been doing this for years now. The more we reflect, but in this moment that I'm even sharing this story, it was a reflection that I could change in a moment. Right before, I would have like been reflecting after I went out of the security checkpoint, wrapped my flutes in bubble wrap, had to check it, and then I was said, what could I do better next time? You know, like, oh, I did it in the moment. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, time out. This is not what I want. Let me change now. And I changed in the moment. Didn't have to go out the checkpoint. Got released with my flutes. Got to be reunited with my family because they went to the gate. I was like held back. You know, all those things. Hey there, I want to give you something really big. It's called Clear Path to Customers. It's the way that we get the right language to get the right client. I like to call them your wow clients so that you can have more results, more revenue, more raving fans, and more referrals. And I want to give this to you absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to stevenapolitan.com to check it out, or you can look at the description here. We'll put the details there. As always, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.